Hello Muggles and welcome back to another episode of my Harry Potter kitchen. If you missed last week, so we made these gravity-defying cereal bowls with a milk splash, then check out the link below in the description to catch up. But today it's another Magic Monday, which means I've got another recipe for you. Let's get into it. If you're a fan of the Harry Potter series and you don't want to miss a recipe from my Harry Potter kitchen, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you get alerted every Magic Monday when there's a new video. Before we get into this week's story, let's just recap what happened last week. We met the Dursleys on Privet Drive and were introduced to Dudley, which is why we made the cereal bowl, and then Vernon went off to work. Let's see what you got up to. Okay, so we finished on page 2, and as he's just left the door, he's noticed a tabby cat standing on the corner of Privet Drive. And he's headed on into work and noticed a few other weird things. People in funny clothes, very, very weird fashion apparently, green cloaks, and then he's got into the office and noticed loads of owls swooping overhead as well. And I think I've seen our next recipe. He was in a very good mood until lunchtime when he thought he'd stretch his legs and walk across the road to buy himself a bun from the baker's opposite. Looks like we're making some buns. For this recipe, you will need 225 milliliters of milk, 1 sachet of quick action yeast, 75 grams of butter, 1 egg, 500 grams of plain flour, the zest of a lemon, 3 tablespoons of sugar, 1 teaspoon of mixed spice, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, and a teaspoon of salt. For the filling, you'll also need 25 grams of butter, 25 grams of sugar, half a teaspoon of cinnamon, and 100 grams of currants. And then finally, to decorate, you'll need 100 grams of icing sugar, 1 tablespoon of water, half a tablespoon of lemon juice, and some glacé cherries. Now, depending on where you're from in the UK, you might refer to a bun as something completely different to someone else. If you're from the north, a bun to you is probably like a muffin or a fairy cake. And if you're from the south, then a bun is more of an afternoon tea cake with fruits and all that good stuff. And I'm a southerner, I'm pretty sure the Dursleys are as southern as it gets. So we're going to make a very traditional Chelsea bun with a Harry Potter twist. It's going to be a nice light and fluffy sponge with currants in, topped off with a lemony icing and finished with a glacé cherry in the shape of a lightning bolt. Okay, to begin this recipe, you'll need to melt your butter in a saucepan with some milk, and then in a separate bowl, combine all your dry ingredients together. Make a well in the middle and then add in your milk, your butter, your eggs and your vanilla, and then make sure you separate your salt and your yeast so they don't react yet, and then knead it all together. Now, if you have an electric stand mixer like I do, you can use it for this recipe with a dough hook attachment. Put it on for about 5 minutes until your dough is nice and smooth. Alternatively, of course, you can do it the old-fashioned way and knead it by hand for about 10 to 15 minutes. Once your dough is nice and smooth and springy to the touch, you want to pop it into a greased bowl, cover it with cling film and put it in a warm place to rise for an hour. Once your dough has doubled inside, you want to take it out your bowl and knock the air back slightly before you roll it out into a nice rectangular shape. Melt down your butter and brush it over the top before scattering over your sugar and your cinnamon. Next, you want to sprinkle over your currants and then press them down slightly so we don't lose any of them when we start to roll. You want to roll from the longest edge, making sure you can get it as tight as possible, but try not to break the dough. Using a really sharp knife, you want to cut out your buns to about 1 centimetre thick and then pop them onto a greased baking tray. Cover with cling film and put them back in a warm place to rise again for about 45 minutes. Before we bake these, we're going to brush them lightly with some milk and then pop them into the oven at 180 degrees Celsius for 15 to 20 minutes until they're light and golden. While the buns are cooling, you can make your icing by mixing together icing sugar, water and your lemon juice in a separate bowl until it's nice and smooth. Place a tablespoon of icing over the top of each bun and swirl it over the top to get a nice even coating, but make sure you let it dribble down the sides a little bit to get a nice authentic finish. We're going to finish these with our lightning bolt cherries, so take a glacé cherry, cut it in half and then cut it in half again, and then position them slightly, edging away to get your signature lightning bolt. It's a little bit fiddly, but keep practicing and you will perfect it by the end. Place them on top of your set icing, and these Harry Potter inspired Chelsea buns are good to go. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this recipe for our Harry Potter inspired Chelsea buns. If you do like them and you're going to recreate them, let me know how they turn out, or send in your pictures because I do love to see them. That is all for this episode, but if you want to see more, make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell, and I'll see you next week for another episode of my Harry Potter Kitchen.